Ouch.
That was what?
All right.
We're awake.
For any of us that weren't awake.
We're awake now.
Getting there. We're just the volume.
Hannah, when you're ready, please take roll. Oh, let me call this meeting to order, first of all, if I may. So this is the regular Monroe Planning Commission meeting for Monday, December 11th, 2023. It is 7:01 p.m. And now, Hannah, if you would take roll, please.
All right. Commissioners present and establishing a quorum. Commissioners Bull, Blair, Dawkins, Lewis, Lockhart, Nugent, and Walker.
Thank you very much. And before we get started, I'd like to request a motion accepting the December 11th, 2023 Planning Commission agenda. We moved public comments from item number 4 to item number 7 per Planning Commission Rules of Procedure 5.1. Do I have a motion, please?
I motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you.
Second motion.
Second from Jake Walker. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay. Next item, public comments announcement. Considering recent events with parties Zoom bombing public meetings and what happened during the public comment portion of the December 5th, 2023 Monroe City Council meeting, public comments were moved to the end of the agenda for tonight's Planning Commission meeting. The public comment agenda item is an opportunity for the public to make comments on items specific to the city of Monroe. Parties wishing to comment on Monroe business are given 3 minutes to present. This is not interactive. If the commission wishes to learn more, they will direct staff to come back with more information at a future meeting. Tonight's meeting also includes a public hearing for proposed amendments to the adopted Monroe Shoreline Master Plan. Public comments during the public hearing must be specific to the proposed amendments. Anyone wishing to make general comments on other issues relating to the city of Monroe will have an opportunity during the public comment item at the end of tonight's meeting. Okay, now that we have that, we'll work on agenda item number 3, which is approval of minutes from our most recent meeting. Do you have any edits? I'm sorry. Any edits or comments?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes from November 27th, 2023.
Second motion. Jake Walker, second. Planning commissioners in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good to go. Okay, next item up is public hearing. And this is Shoreline Master Program periodic update. Anita will be presenting tonight. And there will be requested action at the end of her presentation.
Good evening, planning commissioners. Really good to see everyone here. I'm here tonight to present the public hearing for the proposed amendment to the City of Monroe's Shoreline Master Program. The intent of the Shoreline Master Program, or SMP, is to carry out the responsibilities assigned to the City of Monroe by the Washington State Shoreline Management Act, and to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare by providing a guidance to regulations for the future development of the shoreline resources of the City of Monroe. The city is mandated to conduct a periodic review of its SMP. It's required by the Washington SMA. The SMA requires local governments conduct a review of their master programs every 10 years. This is the map of the City of Monroe's shoreline environmental designations. And as you can see, the majority of the shoreline jurisdiction is either city-owned parkland or open space. We do have a couple of private properties and a mobile home park in the city, but like I said before, a majority of it is open space and park. Just to give you some background on this project, Monroe began working on the SMP periodic update in 2018. The original deadline from the Department of Ecology was June 30th of 2019. The SMP was adopted by council on August 13th, 2019, and the city did receive conditional approval from DOE on October 20th, 2020. The reason why the city needs to make amendments to the SMP is because this is a requirement of DOE in accordance with the conditional approval that the city did receive from the 2019 SMP. Ecology found that changes identified in attachment B, which is part of the agenda packet tonight, it's necessary for internal consistency with the city's updated SMP and reference critical area regulations, and to ensure implementation of the policies of the SMM, Shoreline Master Act, and the SMP. So here's a summary of what amendments are needed. So clarification of the city's definition of shoreline jurisdiction, which is located in Chapter 1 of the SMP. We needed to change some references to the critical areas regulations in the SMP to correct the code chapter reference. So right now it's cited incorrectly. So that's all we're doing for that. We also need to update the critical area regulation stream development standards and adding the definition of fish habitat. So the fish habitat is now part of the definition section of the SMP. Also with this amendment, we do need to update the environment designations map, which I showed earlier. So basically it's just correcting the current designation for the Cadman property is urban conservancy, and that needs to be changed to high intensity. That allows Cadman to continue some of their operations that they're doing right now. The city did receive 3 public agency comments. The first one was from the Washington Department of Natural Resources. And 2 things that they wanted for the city to consider referencing geologically hazard areas under the definition under WAC 365, 190, 120. And then also adding a reference to the WGS Geologic Information Portal. Did receive a comment from the Tourtellot tribes. They disagree with the high intensity designation for the Cadman site. And then a comment from the Snoqualmie tribe. They just wanted it to be known that they're in favor of adding the definition and that this comes directly from WAC 222-16-030 and known that this did originate from the Snoqualmie tribe. So the city did consider these comments. So our major update that we did in 2019, that was the major update. So the purpose of these amendments now is so we're in compliance with the state, with DOE. So at this time, although we did consider them, we're gonna save this for the next update, or possibly if we get direction from the Planning Commission to add it. But at this time, we're mainly concerned on updating to comply with DOE standards. So the recommended action tonight is move to direct staff to draft findings of fact and conclusion of law for the Planning Commission that recommend that the Monroe City Council approve proposed Shoreline Master Program amendments identified by file number CPA 2023-04. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer.
Okay. Let's start on, we have one from Kelsey.
Hi, so the high density being in the floodplain, that's already owned by the city and that's all the parks, so those can be high density now, or?
So only a portion of the property is getting transferred to the city for parks. There is a parcel remaining that still belongs to Cadman. And so the other part is gonna be urban conservancy, which allows park use, and then the high intensity is just for the Cadman property.
Yeah, so this actually goes back to the early 2000s. There are approximately 32 acres, and the last time the shoreline was updated, the city decided to create its own designation, which was urban conservancy mining. The high intensity is replacing that designation. It was a one-off, and because high intensity is one of the categories designated by or created by the Shoreline Management Act, The city this time decided to use an existing category, and it's very specific to the area that Cadman has its active gravel operation. They have a permit not only from us, but also DNR and Department of Ecology.
And where is that?
Can you go back to the map?
Oh, sure.
Just a second, look at the map up. So it's the bright red area that is 30, I believe it's 34 acres will not be transferred to the city of Monroe. And that's part of the agreement that actually goes back to the 1990s.
Thank you.
I have a question. What would it look like, or would we have to come back to it if we were, as a planning commission, to recommend adding what the DNR recommended in their public comments?
Yes, you can direct staff to add those changes, and then when I come back, to the next meeting, I'll have that in there. The recommendation of the commission.
Well, we wouldn't have to come back for another public hearing with that, or?
I don't think so.
Is that comment though specific to the shoreline, or was bigger picture critical areas? I thought that geologically hazard.
I thought it was in reference to the SMP
Specifically.
and the critical areas, but
So, and just to clarify, the way the city has adopted critical areas for the shoreline, we adopted the shoreline references, adopted it by reference, the existing critical areas, which is a separate chapter of the municipal code. So at this time, we're not talking about amending the critical areas, but we do have to review that next year for compliance with the state. So yet another project for us to tackle.
That was gonna be my next question, is when would we be able to look at this again to potentially add something like the DNR was requesting?
The critical areas technically has to be reviewed, and we have to take action before December 31st of 2024.
Okay,
That's a lot of work.
good to know.
Jake?
So, just want to make sure I understand it correctly. It seems like a really mundane change. It's just a recategorization of the label of that zone
that's
from the
correct.
city-made one from
Yes.
20 years ago. Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
and then in the original process, it was just a mistake on having that designated as urban conservancy. So
Right.
it's just a matter of changing that out.
Yeah, because the text, if you read the S&P, it's in the text very specifically that Cadman is in the high intensity. The map just didn't reflect it.
Are you guys able to put the recommended actions up on the screen, by chance?
It should be in
your
the agenda packet, yeah. At the very beginning, under,
Hold on, we're getting you the page number.
I know, I was just finding the 64 pages.
Page
but-
6.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's actually pretty high up.
485.
That's my fault.
There's alternative ones down on page 10 are alternative requested action, but the primary one is on 6.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any other questions for Anita or staff? Okay. I'd like to open the public testimony portion. Can I get a motion to open the public testimony portion of this hearing?
And move to open the citizen portion of the public hearing.
Second motion?
Thanks, Jake. Commissioners in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. I'm going to ask speakers, if there's any speakers online.
We do have 2 people in the lobby. If you'd like to give public comment on this public hearing, just raise your hand and I'll give you the ability to speak.
Okay, and no public speakers present.
I move to close the citizen portion of the public hearing.
What is that?
Second motion?
Thanks, Jane. Commissioners in favor, please say aye.
Uh,
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Time now for commissioners to discuss who would like. All right, we're gonna go, Jake, you got something you'd like to discuss?
So we're going to recommend a motion after this, is that correct?
Yeah, we gotta close the public hearing.
Yeah, I'll close the public hearing and then.
Perfect.
Okay. Requested a motion to close the public hearing portion.
I move to close the public hearing.
In a second.
Second motion?
Thanks, Jake. Commissioners in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now, I'm going to ask for someone to present a motion.
I move to direct staff to draft findings of fact and conclusions of law, recommending that the Monroe City Council approve the proposed Shoreline Master Program amendments identified by file number CPA 2023-04.
Thanks, Melanie. Do I have a second?
I'd like to second motion?
Thank you very much. Commissioners in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much for your participation. And that should be it for the public hearing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. All right, next item 5 is new business, and Kate has 2024 to 2044 comprehensive plan, shoreline and natural environment element, climate change and resiliency.
Yeah, so there is no presentation tonight. I really just wanted to familiarize you with some more materials. Last fall, I gave you an introduction to the shoreline and natural environment element. This is a component of it, and as we've been saying, there have been some recent changes to the Growth Management Act that need to account for climate change and, more importantly, resiliency. The city of Monroe is actually in a good place compared to a lot of jurisdictions that have their stormwater or their sewer treatment plants in the floodplain. Ours is actually elevated, which is very expensive to relocate. But getting you prepared for starting to look at policies, I did want to introduce you to the materials that were prepared by our consultant, and that is the first item of the packet beginning on page 72. It's just a memorandum, and it provides an overview of observed trends and forecasting of the future. And I would suspect most of you have been experiencing these changes, hotter, longer summers, issues with the snowpack, drought from time to time, the storms that we're having are more intensive. And so this is just laying out what has been observed primarily through 2020, and then what's being forecasted. And there's two horizons for that. The first horizon is, I'm sorry. First one, yeah, it's mid-century is 2040 through 2069, and then the long one, which kind of boggles my mind, I can't think that far out, is 2070 through 2099. And this is really using the best information we have today. If things continue and are not changed, this is what you can expect. And so items that might impact Monroe realistically are increasing heat. And there's different things that we could do to tackle that, which we'll be getting to probably next year, I would suspect. And some of that stuff is looking at different ways of transportation, because in the materials I've provided for you, the biggest thing for greenhouse gas emissions, which they have identified that creates the climate change, transportation is the biggest element that's affecting Snohomish County. And so things that we could look at, that we will be looking at, is looking at our pedestrian network, our non-motorized, so biking, walking, mobility devices. How can we get around the city of Monroe? And that's one of the things that we heard very loud and clear while we were out in the public. So anyway, this is, if you have specific questions on this, please send me an email and I'll get it back to our consultant team. This is kind of very heavy material, in my opinion. The stream temperatures, that's another one. We have endangered salmon in Monroe, Woods Creek, Chinook, and so if the temperatures rise, then you have a reduction in the salmon population. The other item I do want to point out is wildfires is the last item included in this table. And right now, one of the things that our department is trying to assess is the state had passed the Wildlife Urban Interface International Codes, which is actually a building code, but it has the potential of impacting planning because it talks about landscaping and exterior materials for buildings as well as decks. And so certain areas of the city of Monroe have been identified as being within this hazardous area. And so this actually has potentially immediate implications for our community. The next item, and I totally apologize, I could have just condensed it and given you the city of Monroe component, but the Snohomish County Hazards Mitigation Plan. The specific pages for Monroe are beginning on page, your packet, page 297. And again, this walks through some of the areas where we have repetitive loss. The Monroe Motel is known for flooding, and that's identified in here. And so this is updated every 5 years. The city of Monroe works with Snohomish County. One of the primary inputs is the University of Washington does a lot of the data research for us. Just walking through on page 298 and 299, it lists those items where we've actually had damage assessment, and you'll notice that the majority of them are from flooding. I was looking at the Nesqually earthquake. I was working for Monroe back then. Had a brand new car in the back of Old City Hall. My car went like this, but that was the big one that took a lot of the siding off of Pioneer Square, all of the brick buildings. So again, another high cost damage natural hazard. Then walking through the document, it also has hazard, probability, exposure, and vulnerability. You'll see first air field is included in there. That's part of the reason there's so many limitations for building in Monroe. Everything is based on the probability of accidents. The next one is, the other one I wanted to point out is earthquakes. Again, just as I mentioned, the Nesqually, there's really nothing we can do about it, except for changing our building code, which ours is up to date. Yeah. And I found it interesting on this document on page 301, the county, or through this process, they identified wildfires as a low risk for Monroe. So that is in conflict with what the Department of Natural Resources is telling us.
Sorry, what was the body that said it is low risk?
This came out of the Joint Natural Hazards Planning Mitigation Program for Snohomish County. So it's a conglomerate of cities, counties, and they're using the research out of primarily the University of Washington. But the Department of Natural Resources has identified for Monroe, most of the city is in an area that would be impacted by the wildfire interface. I just,
Interesting.
right?
Who's right?
I don't know. Okay, so there's a lot of interesting information in there. It talks about the things that we're doing right, beginning on page 304, talking about our comprehensive planning, some of the actions the city has already taken. I did find there is an error in their information. They said that we do not have flood insurance rate maps. We do. That's a lot of work that Anita has done in the past to help make sure that people who buy flood insurance in Monroe are paying the lowest rate possible. So again, these types of documents will be in the appendices of the comprehensive plan, but it's starting to build that technical base for you to start making some policy decisions. Oh, yep, question.
Kelsey?
Did look through this, but I didn't see anything like back to the wildfires, anything about like air quality or smoke. Is that like a concern, like breathing? I think that might be a concern.
Yeah, that's a really great point, because that would be covered with the climate change. There's so much documentation. I know in Idaho and Montana, they are actually seeing increased rates of asthma as a result of all the wildfires. That is not captured. It's not captured in the hazards mitigation plan outside of that one notation for the wildfire interface. But it would be something that we can ask our consultant to look at in the climate change memorandum.
Thank you. It was a pretty scary document. It was like 30%, 30% of our snow cap and our glacier stuff, glaciers won't be there in like 15 years. It's like a huge, it's really, really scary. So I saw that we don't have to do anything until like 2045, I believe, or is that we don't have to implement anything until then?
2039 is when we have to include a climate change element in the comprehensive plan. That is correct.
And we can vote to make those things happen sooner, or no?
I would say you can, but the reality is this comprehensive plan, we have limited budget to get through the scope that we already have identified. And because it's not a mandatory element for us to get adopted through 2024, it will be identified as a future work plan. Just the bottom line is I don't have enough staff, funding, and resources.
Does the city have its own, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Does the city have its own list of like kind of hazards that it uses, at least in the table, or?
The best we have is what's in the Snohomish County document. We actually participate in that project.
Got it.
I believe we pay a portion of it. And Ben Swanson was the liaison for community development the last time we updated. This document gets updated every 5 years.
Gotcha. It was interesting, and it's pertinent actually, or culturally pertinent, because there's a movie that's getting big right now. It talks about like the risks of a electromagnetic pulse, how it is probably one of the most likely kind of large scale terrorist attacks that could happen, and one of the easiest. And I don't know if it's too late for this comp plan, but if kind of resiliency planning for city utilities in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. I don't know, I think it'd be cool for the city to start looking into something like that, just in case it ever happened.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be, it is not in the scope of this particular update, but it is something that we will be addressing.
Awesome.
In the future. Okay, and then the final item I provided for you is just a new document that Snohomish County this came out from the Puget Sound Regional Council for Snohomish County. And again, this is getting at the items that I've already mentioned. For Snohomish County, the biggest thing that is impacting greenhouse gas emissions, as well as vehicle miles traveled, which I'll get to why those are important. For us, it really is transportation. That is the one thing that we could potentially control by making some changes on providing other options for our residents. So anyway, this is just another resource document for you. Yes.
Didn't I also say that loss of trees is the other one that's like almost the same, like 21%? And I know Kelsey had brought that up before about when we're getting into policy stuff, requiring mature trees to stay on developable lots.
It is, and it's something that we will need to have a conversation around. My understanding is the city did have this conversation back in 2018 or 2019. And at that time, there wasn't strong support for it. So our department did not work on actual regulations. But the climate change changes that happened, not the Oh, I get confused, I'm sorry. There's, one of the two bills that I have attached for you does talk about the climate mitigation. Part of that is retaining tree canopy. That's the term that is typically used. And so that is also getting at the greenhouse gas emissions. That does not deal with the vehicle miles traveled, but all of it is trying to, because tree canopy is, it helps with the oxygen and it also reduces heat for especially asphalt and cement and concrete. So we will be tackling that.
And with the updated, building code, I know a lot of it it's like fire prevention, but also does it go to energy efficiency, since that's also something that they mentioned in here that can help to reduce the impact for greenhouse gases is more efficient housing?
Different code, but yes. So the state adopted the international codes, and one of them is it the 2021?
It's 2021, yeah.
Yeah, the 2021 Energy Code has a lot more stringent requirements for energy efficiency. The state has put that on hold for implementation until March of next year. That is separate from they call it the WUI, the Wildlife Interface Code, but they're companion documents.
So, something built after March of that year would have to comply with those regulations.
If the state adopts it, or was it adopted and not implementing? I get confused. The WUI was adopted but hasn't been implemented. The Energy Code
has not been officially
Adopted.
adopted yet. There was a court case out of California that was filed against specific aspects of the energy code. And the state was looking at how that was gonna get resolved before they wanted to adopt the final adoption for it.
Okay, one final question on that is, so since we're doing the comp plan update stuff, if that was to get finalized, would that change language that we would be thinking of for the comp plan stuff? Or would it automatically override and people would have to start abiding by that code?
It's totally separate.
Yeah, because the comp plan, it's your umbrella document, it's the policies. And what we're talking about are the building code, the zoning code, which are implementing tools for all of the policies. So when we're looking at the natural environment, that's where you're going to be wanting to put in policies. I can't think of one off the top of my head. A policy that would support that, like develop a tree canopy retention code. That would be something you could consider, or
Encourage platinum LEED buildings.
Yeah.
That would be sort of the level that you would look at for within the comp plan, so policy statements. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But so the building code is a completely separate thing, and it gets adopted by the state, and then locally, there's also local adoption. For the most part, cities and counties adopt the building code as the state does, with some minor changes. Although the exception being that the city of Seattle, they have their own building code, which is sort of unique.
Thank you.
Kelsey?
I was just wondering actually, I forgot my question. I'm sorry.
if it goes out. Okay, and then the final two documents I provided in the packet are just overviews of the two climate changes to the Growth Management Act. One of them was passed in 2021 and the other one was passed this year. The one that was passed this year is the one that requires us to have a climate change and resiliency element by 2029. So this is just a summary of why they passed it, what's included in it, and again, items that we will be working on after we get through this comp plan update. So lots of technical information, which I just want you to start familiarizing yourself with as we start getting into policy conversations next year with each element.
There'll be a quiz.
Thank you.
It'll be open vote.
Yeah. So that's all I have for you this evening.
Okay, thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
All right, next item is discussion by commissioners and staff. And during that period of time, we're going to recognize two of our commissioners for their dedication and hard work. Can't run the commission without folks like you, so. Should we,
Do you want me to start there?
can we start with them and?
Yes,
There's a start?
there it is. Well, because, you got your go around.
Start everything.
So, first, Jake, I would like to thank you for your dedication. Is it almost 2 years? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you very much.
So, we know that we're not losing you. You're just going on to the next step. So, I say thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
And
Didn't
then,
know this was a thing. That's so
Yeah.
nice. Thank you.
and then Janelle, thank you so much for joining us. And you all have been with me on a very challenging year on subjects that are not easy to get through. So I just really want to say thank you so much for the work that you've done this year. It takes dedicated residents to help us get through this stuff. So in recognition, I also have fruit and treats and stuff back here. So thank you.
You guys are amazing. Thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah.
Janelle did it through a master's program. Jake did it with a newborn.
I know. Dedication.
Thanks you two for making the city better. Okay. Move on to our commissioners online. Liz?
I just want to thank staff for their great presentation and all the information, and I don't really have much.
Kelsey?
Same, thank you, and hope everyone has a good day.
Thank you. Janelle?
I just want to say thank you to everyone for being amazing while I served as a commissioner on planning. You're not getting rid of me. I'm everywhere all the time. So, but I appreciate all of you, your warmness, your just your welcoming demeanor. And this was something that was new to me. And it can kind of, if you let it, it can kind of be intimidating when you don't know as much as, everyone else. But I never felt that. And I'm grateful for all of you. And this isn't goodbye. It's see you later. So I like it.
Thanks, Janelle. Jake?
I didn't prepare a speech. I'm not as good of a speaker as Janelle. But, I want to echo a lot of what she said. I'm just appreciative of every single one of you because this is the kind of thing that leads to city policy that's for the benefit of everyone. And it helps make sure that every interest is represented and it turns into good policy. And obviously, as Janelle was saying, none of us could do it or speak the language without you guys making it neat and nice for us to understand and take all of my gibberish questions. And
Good question.
yeah, I'm just appreciative of you guys, appreciative of my fellow commissioners, and yeah, we'll see you around definitely. So thank you very much. And thank you for the certificates. Those are really cool.
Thanks, Jake. Red?
It's been nice working on the commission with both of you, getting to know you. As far as anything else, I don't have any other discussion items. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. I'm just gonna say thank you to commissioners and staff. This is the last meeting of the year. It was a fairly rigorous year. Next year will be more rigorous, so. If you thought
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. 2 meetings every month.
Comfortable with 2 meetings a month, or there could be 3 to get our comprehensive plan done, so buckle up and you guys are very diligent, hard workers, so I have no doubt that there's gonna be something great coming out of the comprehensive plan, so looking forward to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, staff, for the presentations and the information. Thank you, Janelle and Jake, for your service. It's been a pleasure serving with both of you through all of the work that we've been doing. And since it's the last meeting of the year, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays for any holidays anyone is celebrating over the next several weeks. Happy New Year, because we won't see each other again until 2024.
Lemons. Thanks, Shelley, very much. Go ahead.
I want to thank you both for your service on the planning commission. I think I can speak for the planners that we work with a lot of different boards and commissions, and I think that, this is really the heart of what we do. And this forum allows for a lot more discussion and going through items, and so we always appreciate the questions because it's, a little bit less formal than city council, but if you look at a city council agenda, then there's 7 items, with a whole variety of departments involved. So I've always really liked working with the planning commission, and this group is no exception. One announcement, the city last week just closed on purchasing the Union Bank building. So the city had been looking, had put in an offer when it first, it was bought by US Bank. US Bank, I think, bought all of Union Bank. I'm not sure how all that works. So they were looking at places, around the country where they were gonna sell buildings or occupy them. And so this is one of them that they decided to sell. So the city has purchased it and will be looking at options on both the short, mid, and long-term basis. So there's no decision at this point of what's gonna happen in there. The long-term is looking at doing a public process to get some input. Also along with downtown issues as well. So more to come, but that has officially happened, so.
What building? What
The
building?
Union Bank building.
Oh, okay.
In downtown.
Is that all the structures then on that kind of plat, that parcel?
2.
So there's a building, it's actually 2 parcels. There's the building, the single-story building that's off of Main Street, which was a chiropractor's office. And the city is expecting to have our offer finalized on that. So it's not a done deal, but it's very, very close for the city to have both of those, so. Awesome. Interesting. There's some opportunities for the city to participate in the continuing development of downtown.
Open a bank too, do that? City bank.
We need to talk to Becky about that.
Yeah. She can do it.
There's still a vault in there, I've been in it. That's all I've got.
Okay. Thanks. Anita?
Well, it's a pleasure working with both of you. I'm sad to see you go, but I know I'll see you guys around week 2, Jake, and council, so I know I'll be back. Just want to wish everyone happy holidays, happy New Year, and just appreciate everyone's work here for being on the commission. It's a lot of work, and I'm really glad that Commissioner Bull is here because he was here when we did the other comp plan amendment, right? So he knows.
Yeah.
He can get, okay.
Well,
So
there was some years where we were meeting 3 or 4 times a week,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So if you need any advice or talk to Jay.
You just unbutton your sleeve and roll it up.
Yes, and then I have to report a couple of new restaurants coming. So as you all can see, IHOP, and that'll probably be open this month. And then there's a new Indian restaurant.
Awesome.
So yeah, we're really excited, and possibly another Indian restaurant as well, but for sure the one on Main Street.
Here at Amarillo.
Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot the bubble tea place.
Oh, bubble tea.
By Safeway, where Cricket Wireless.
Yeah, bubble tea.
I know, I need.
Oh, Wendy's, yeah.
Wendy's.
So yeah, we're excited. Anytime a new restaurant comes, we're excited, so. That's all I have.
I know it's a chain, it's not as exciting as local business, but
Yes.
still.
Yes.
You know, if the Indian restaurant's gonna keep like a Western style
Yes.
theme, like a fusion.
So we'll see how that goes because they didn't really change the inside of the building at all, so. It's like a Texas themed Indian restaurant.
Hurry, Jack Lowe.
I don't have anything to add. I just want to say thank you for all of your work this year. Jay is not wrong. Next year is going to be very busy, and my suspicion is you're remembering the Title 22 because there were 4 meetings a month to get that. And that's when the city got rid of chapters 17, 18, and 19, which used to be the zoning code, subdivision code, and I can't remember the last one, and they combined it all into Title 22, which is our uniform development regulations. That was brutal. I'm hoping next year will not be that intensive. So have a wonderful holiday season and get ready to work in January.
Hannah, what do you have for us?
Well, it's the 4th night of Hanukkah, and we're 10 days away from the winter solstice, so it's just a wonderful time of year. But yeah, thank you so much to both of you for everything you've done for your community, what you're going to continue to do, I know. So yeah, it's been a pleasure working with both of you, and thanks for an awesome year, everyone.
Thanks very much, Hannah. Move on to item number 7, which we move to the end. Public comments. Members of the audience may speak to the planning commission on any issue related to the city of Monroe. Comments by individuals are limited to 3 minutes. The commission usually does not respond to matters brought up during audience participation and may, if appropriate, address the matter at a subsequent meeting. Regarding virtual participation information, if you are attending the meeting virtually, please indicate that you would like to speak by clicking raise hand, and the chair will call on attendees to speak at the appropriate time. If you're joining by phone, dial 9 to raise hand. Attendees can alternatively submit written comments to be read into the record at the time of the meeting. All written comments must be received prior to 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting and must be 350 words or less. And you can submit to Hannah H. Maynard at Monroe.gov. So after that, is there anyone in the waiting room that has raised their hand?
We have one person in the waiting room, but I do not see a raised hand. So.
Fantastic. So at this time, I'd like to ask for somebody to move for adjournment.
And you want to do it? It's your last one? It's your last one here.
No, I insist. You go first.
I make the motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I would like to second the motion.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I should have voted no so that you guys had to hang on, but.
I tried that once. It went over really well.
Motion passes. And we are adjourned. Thank you all.